So I know a lot of highly successful people that aren't getting jobs, and they're always wondering why. What's the reason why a good candidate wouldn't get a job?
Sure. So when you say that, Steve, do you mean during the interview or why they're not getting the interviews?
Well, it could be that they're not getting the interviews, or they're actually interviewing and then they're not getting first place.
Sure. So during the interview, one of the things that really loses people is they'll say, "Tell me a little bit about your background," and it's really the rambling that really, really hurts people. So they'll take 10. We were talking about this right before we recorded this. They'll just continually ramble on, and when companies ask that, they want to hear a 2 to 3 minute answer.
Okay.
So what I like to start with, Steve, is I like to say, the next 2 to 3 minutes, I'm going to give you a 10,000-foot view of a little bit of my background. If there's anything that you want me to dig into more detail about, will you let me know?
Okay, and so you're kind of saving it a little bit because you're setting a little bit of an agenda for what you're going to say, and then you're keeping it tight.
Correct, because they do want it tight. I mean, they interview a lot of candidates. They want to hear it direct to the point. And also with most jobs, you have to keep it concise, because whatever you're doing, you have to keep it direct and not always be rambling. So that's one thing. Questions is another thing. I mean, I mentioned that before. It's just asking really good, insightful questions.
Is that happening at the end of the interview? Is it happening in the middle of the interview? When is it acceptable to start asking this hiring manager questions, for example?
Sure, it really depends, because you have to really feel it out. So usually I let them talk, and then at the end, they'll say, "Do you have questions?" Or sometimes, just depending on who they are, if they kind of take a breath, I'll start to ask questions.
Okay.
And the questions are not just like, "Hey, Steve, I'm going to ask you these 5 questions, check, check, check." It's also digging more into it. So, "Oh, Steve, that's really interesting. Can you tell me a little bit more how that operates and how this works?"
Okay.
So I think that's something that's really, really important.
Okay. Is there something that a candidate can do at the end of the interview to get a better feel for how it went and what a next step would look like?
Sure. So, no, that's a great question. So what I always recommend doing is this is how I recommend closing every interview. So you'll know one of my candidates if they close this way. All right.
We'll know the Greg Salkovich touch has been placed on it.
That's right. So what I recommend saying is I'll say to you, let's say I'm interviewing with you, Steve. I'll say, "Steve, thank you so much for your time. Really enjoy this. I'm really, really interested in the company. Do you have any reservations about moving me forward?" And the reason why I like that close is it gives you an opportunity to field objections. So if you do have something, maybe I skipped over something, and you can say, "Great,
you don't have a lot of experience in XYZ." Then
exactly. That's exactly right. Then I can go in and I can say, "Sure, Steve, I understand why that's a concern, and actually I do, or maybe I don't," and I can say, "Sure, I don't, but I really believe I make up for it in this area."
Okay, so fielding concerns while you're in the room versus leaving, they haven't been resolved, and they're just going to keep looking.
That's correct.
So you're kind of keeping your chances a little bit stronger.
Exactly right.
Okay.
It does not work on dates.
Oh, nice.